It's Wednesday morning, and we are heading today from our hotel in Midtown Seoul to Inchon, where General MacArthur won a dramatic victory over the North Korean communists just 3 months after their aggressive invasion in June. Traffic is heavy but moves along at a good clip through this large metropolitan area of over 20 million people. They have toll gates here too to pay the cost of these new superhighways. And most of the people live in high-rise condos like these numbered clusters of skyscrapers. These are where most of the people live. It's the final stage of Operation Chroma. On the way, we'll hear from our two Marine veterans of this battle.
And this guy sitting next to me over here, that's Dave Williams, and we were both at the Inchon Landing. What you've seen in the movie is pretty much the way it was. You either did or you didn't. You're either fire or not fire. I mean, to put it bluntly. See, myself, I was in Blue Beach, if you remember those colors in the film, which is pretty much the way it was. You landed on the mud and tried to get to the dry land. My position is not exactly on what they call on the line, the guys with the rifles and everything. I was just a little bit behind them. I was in a motor company, and the motors, they shoot over our front lines into the oncoming enemy. So my problem was not getting direct fire other than the sniper fire, because they were the ones looking for us to stop us from shelling their troops. I don't know what else I can tell you, except if you've seen the movie, that's it. When there's fire against it, you're on the ground, or if there's no cover, you stay on the ground, and sometimes it's easier moving at night because they can't see you, and you just keep on going. You want to take it? I'll let Dave here explain more if there's more to go.
Well, we were all a bunch of snot-nosed kids. We did our training on Guam. The 3rd Battalion Fifth Marines did their training on Guam. We came back to the States.
Sit down.
What?
He said, sit down.
Oh. We came back to the States, and we made a movie called Halls of Montezuma with Richard Whitmark. Then, I got my leave, so I got to go home for 30 days. I was there 6 days. Got a telegram. Leave canceled. Return immediately. So I ran down and bought a Greyhound bus ticket to come back to Camp Pendleton. Like a stupid, snotty-nosed kid, I did not read the rest of the telegram. It said, go to this nearest Air Force base and get a free hop to California. But I didn't read it, didn't do it. We were the first Marines to go into combat in Korea. And I hate to say this about those Army dudes there, but we saved them because we were trained. They were trained too, but the difference is they were from Japan and they were trained on Gishi girls. And we had regular training. Let's see. We went in to the Pusan perimeter, which is down south, Then MacArthur made that decision to make the Inchon Landing. We were the only military that was trained as a unit for amphibious warfare. So they pulled us out, sent us up, and we made the Womido Island landing. That was for that one reason. And we had our fights all the way to Seoul. And we were the ones that raised the first, our battalion, our company, raised the first American flag over the Capitol. Then we got another ride around the whole thing of the peninsula of Korea and got to go to the Chosin Reservoir. But that's another story.
If you don't mind me asking, so were y'all part of the 296, Hill 296?
Yes, I was.
Yeah, can I ask you where the computer? Yeah.
I was on the hill that we're talking about in this movie. That was actually was our battalion, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. And when we went into Seoul, actually it was a foot race between George Company and Howe Company, 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines, who would get to put the flag up, and we won. Another thing, the 1st Marine Regiment, which Gil here was a part of, had a chance to do that, but they got the lanyards mixed up. So we beat them all out, I think by about 3 minutes or something like that. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Yes. He's wondering if you could tell a little bit about the mud flat situation whenever the tides were going up and down and the delays that caused and things like that.
You don't want that. Okay, there again, the high tide and low tide, just like the movie says. Everything was planned, hopefully, that the high tides were there in order for the ship to get closer to shore. Because if not, your boat will just go down into the mud flaps. And that's all that's about it for me as far as knowing what's what, other than you just follow orders and wait for your turn to get down into the mud or swim in or sink or whatever.
One thing, you talk about those mud flats, there was a ship that got stranded between Inchon and Womido. And we had to defend that ship when the high tide came out so we could get out. Also, that ship was firing on our guys without, they didn't understand it or didn't know it, they were our guys. We finally had to, the higher ups let them know that those were Marines were firing at. Well, that's about all.
Thank you.
Individually, you're welcome to ask us anything that we can help you with as far as questions is concerned. We were there, we done this, we done that, and there's a lot of personal things that were done. I'm glad that we are here to kind of maybe explain a little bit about what was going on. My personal feeling, this is one of the wars that was definitely a plus on my side to see what they done with the freedom that we gave them and to rebuild South Korea.
I have a question. Did you not have personnel carriers in the way of vehicles, or did you always move on foot?
No, we had there. No, there was no personal cab ride. They'll call the phone on the phone for you. No, you're mainly on foot, unless you're going a distance. Then the motor transport would help with your equipment, and maybe take the troops on, or just walk behind.
Mostly walking.
Mostly walking.
What about sleeping? Did you have tents or what?
The tanks?
Tents.
Tents.
Or anything.
No tent. You're living out in nature. You know, that's another story, like in the Chosen Reservoir. But out here, no tents. No, no.
You just dug in foxholes, or
foxholes? That's what your home.
you dug.
You dug. You had a small shovel. You know, just like any service. Between shovels and small picks, you dug your hole for the night. And you dug because that's what your lifesaver is, being below ground in the event anything happens.
Okay, we're almost to Inchon. Before we arrive, I don't have all of the details about the story, but as most of you know, the government did shut down on October 1. Congress and the administration could not come to an agreement, so there was what they're calling a partial government shutdown. But there's a story about a group of World War II veterans who were on an honor flight to Washington. So apparently they arrived and the Park Service had the World War II memorial blocked off to tourists. Well, these guys had come a long way and they felt like, which they were entitled to visit their memorial. So apparently they just rushed the site and brushed aside the Park Service and held their ceremony at the World War II memorial. So the greatest generation and the generation that fought the Korean War, it's not a good idea to stand in front of them and tell them that they can't have access to something that they very rightfully deserve.
How did you get your food?
Okay, all our supplies, whether it's food, ammunition, mail, was dropped by airplanes, which I nicknamed flying boxcars. I think there's a C-34s or something like that. I'm not quite sure on the actual name of the or type of airplane.
Yeah, but how would they know where each of you, did they drop it in the middle of your platoon or your company or something?
No, they just dropped it and you went after it. They would drop as close as they could to the location where they're supposed to be dropped.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when you drop something off the air, you know, it can go drop anywhere, but it would be in proximity of the troops.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So your food was mostly K rations or in tin cans or?
Everything in tin cans. Yeah. That was, you know, you eat them cold because there's no way at that location of the reservoir. The temperatures were 30, 40 degrees below zero, you know, so it was just cold.
So a lot.
I'll tell you a little story later. I think we're going to talk about the reservoir.
Yeah.
The food supplied everything, ammunition, the jeeps, trucks, tanks. A lot of times you'd leave them running all night long because they would freeze overnight. And that's the problem that you didn't want to happen.
Was there fuel? Was it diesel for the tanks? Just gasoline. Did they have to drop that from the air?
That, whatever it took to get supplies there. And not gasoline, I don't think, because if they hit, they explode.
Yeah, that's what I wondered.
No, that's, I couldn't give you the answer.
Yeah. So it was no vegetables, no fruit. It was all probably meat and potatoes. And
anything in a can that would survive time.
Spam.
Spaghetti and meatballs, sausages. You know, it's something that would not perish. I joined the Marine Corps Reserve in August of 1948 on a 2-year enlistment. My 2-year reserve enlistment was up August 10, 1950. I was called to active duty by the Marine Corps August 1, 1950. Then 10 days before my enlistment was up.
I was one of the few that actually did not go to boot camp. You see, because of my reserve enlistment time, they call me to active duty, and my boot camp days was actual active combat.